students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator for paper 1. We have been discussing the series and the different PYQs and the concepts. And of course, we are going to discuss again PYQs related to environment. Before jumping directly to the PYQ series, again I have one current affair for you. So this is a scheme called as Amrit Dharohar, and this is a scheme that was actually mentioned in the budget that came recently. And this talks about basically the protection of the vital wetlands. So how is it important to protect the wetlands that are there present in our country? So in total, there are about 75 Ramsar sites, and we know that these Ramsar sites are basically the site that talks about the protection of the wetlands. So there are 75 total Ramsar sites. One important question. Also, this scheme is talking about the protection of all the vital wetlands and the sustenance and the availability and the protection of the biodiversity. This comes under the topic or the section, the green growth, which is mentioned in the budget, right? So you should know that there is another scheme that is talking about the protection of biodiversity. All of these questions are asked in our exam. Also, what is important, you should know how many Ramsar sites are there. You should know the name of this scheme. These two things are important for the exam point of view. So now, today we are going to discuss about the Sustainable Development Goals. We'll discuss the questions related to it. But before that, I will, in front of you, I have all the targets and the goals as well. So there are 17 goals and 169 targets. And I would try, this would be my, my most effort that I can discuss the PYQs with you. But if the class extends for a longer period of time, then we'll discuss only one or two questions related to this. But my main focus would be to discuss the goals and the targets related to it. So now discussing 169 targets would also be a very tedious task. So I have few important ones and I have jotted them down in the slide itself. So you can pause the video, take screenshots, or you can copy it down and make your own notes because they are important. And I'll show you the questions also, how they are asked now. Right. So in total, we have 17 sustainable development goals. In the previous video, we discussed the Millennium Development Goals. So from 2000 to 2015, we had the Millennium Development Goals, that is the MDGs. And then came up in 2015, we started to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. And then properly in 2016, we started with the Sustainable Development Goals. So they are 17 in number with 169 targets, and these are important. Now, what all are these? First is no poverty, then zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality. Then we have the clean water and sanitation. Now, you should remember that here we are talking about sanitation also, right? So in the previous question we discussed, in the previous MDGs, we discussed that sanitation was not talked about. So here we are talking about water and sanitation both. We have affordable and clean energy. We have decent work and economic growth. Then we have industry, innovation and infrastructure, then reduce inequalities, then we have sustainable cities and communities. Then what we will be thinking? We'll be thinking about consumption and production. So we have responsible consumption and production. Then we have climate action, and then you should remember we are talking about the water and the land, both of them. So goal 14 before us is life below water, and then we have life on land. After that, we'll be talking about the peace, justice and harmony. So peace, justice and strong institutions. At the end, very end, there would be global partnership. So in the MDGs also, there was global partnership at the end, and here also we are talking about partnership as the goal. So these are the 17 goals for us, and we will be discussing the goal and the important targets related to it. So basically, I would be reading it and you will be jotting down the important points, like all of these things, half, and like in the MDGs also I made you mark, right? So all the figures that will fall under it, they are also asked in your exams. So you should know. So the first goal is end poverty in all its forms and from everywhere. Right, everywhere possible. So target 1 says by 2030 eradicate extreme poverty for all the people everywhere. Then the next target would say by 2030 reduce at least half the portion. Now this thing is important, half the proportion of men and women and children at all ages in poverty in all its dimensions according to the national definitions. So now reduce the poverty to half. You should also remember all these things. Then there is that implement nationally appropriate social protection schemes so that you can ensure that all of these people are so covered properly and no one is left, no one is poor and vulnerable. So what are you gaining out of this goal? You are gaining that half the portion of men, women and children and during this age should be protected. So there should be poverty, and how much poverty is being said they will cut? Half by 2030, because we have to complete these goals by 2030. So this we started in 2016 till when? 2015 to 2030. So then we have the fourth target in the first goal only. By 2030, ensure that all men and women, in particular the poor and the vulnerable, have equal rights. So they talk about the equal rights to economic resources as well as to the basic services also, right? They are talking about the services like the land, like the property, inheritance, natural resources, new technologies, financial services and other micro, macro finances also. So that is what you have to gain from it. You should have equal rights given to men and women. There should be no poverty, reduce the poverty to half, right? By 2030, build the resilience of the poor and those in vulnerable situations and reduce their exposure to vulnerability. Now they are talking that climate related problems are also there. There is extreme climate now. People, living in this Delhi chilly winter on the footpaths suffer a lot. So what they are talking, they are saying that you have to reduce the amount of vulnerability that the people go through. You have to safeguard these kind of people. So these are the climate related initiatives also, because you are poor, so definitely you will be suffering from the extreme climatic conditions also. So maybe it can be winter or it can be summer, but they're also talking about the vulnerable situations. So it can be the disasters also. At that time also, poor people suffer a lot. So you have to protect them from the disasters as well. Then we have goal 2, and now this goal 2 talks about the hunger. So when we have already discussed about poverty, we know that we are reducing it to half. Then what we will be doing? We will be providing them good, ample nutrition food, because we know that food security is needed. So this goal talks about end hunger, achieve food security and improve the nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So what is this goal talking about? This goal will say that after you have ended poverty to half and reduced it to half, now what is important? Provide all these people with good amount of food, with ample food, with good nutrition, and promote that there is agriculture sustenance. So use the resources in such a way that present generation is also happy and the coming generation is also happy. So by 2030, end hunger and ensure access to everyone. By 2030, end all forms of malnutrition, including achieving by 2025. That means by 2025 we are talking that till 2025 we will end all forms of malnutrition, and internationally agreed targets that we have made for the children, and we will be protecting the children that are below the age of 5 or at the age of 5. We will address all the problems that we have internationally also decided to do to protect these children. We will be addressing the nutrition related needs. Adolescent girls, pregnant women, lactating women would also be protected. So these are the most vulnerable of all. We have small children below the age of 5 or 5 years of age. We have adolescent girls. We have pregnant women. They are the most vulnerable to all these diseases. We discussed in the MDGs also. Then we have lactating women who are also vulnerable, and the older persons. So all of these should be given special focus. So by 2030, we will double the agriculture productivity. Another outcome you should remember, here also you should remember that by 2025, we will reduce all forms of malnutrition. Here remember that we will double the agriculture productivity and the incomes of the small scale food producers also. So if we will double the agriculture productivity, this will help in a lot of levels. So first of all, the farmers would be helped. Then of course we'll have more amount of food to be served. So this will particularly help all the indigenous people, all the poor families, and the other related activities like fisheries and other farmers would also be helped. Also, indigenous people and particularly the women would be helped, because they are also the one who are somewhere the food producers. So this will help them. This will also be this will be a scheme. There will be a lot of schemes and also, and this will help them to have good amount of lands. So land would be given to them, good production would be increased. So by double the production would be increased. Hence the women would be saved, all the agriculture farmers would be saved, and there would be more availability of food. So then we will also provide them with the more inputs, more productive resources, more inputs, more finance, more knowledge, more markets, more opportunities, and more value addition. So the non-farmers can also become employed, right? So these are the few things that we can do. Then we have another target. By 2030, we'll ensure the sustainable food production system, and we will implement the resilience agriculture practices. So we will have good food production systems. So now what we are learning, we will double the agriculture production. We will try to have good food production. We will help the women, the older people, the lactating women, the adolescent girls, and the pregnant women. Also the children below the age of 5. We will reduce all the forms of malnutrition by 2025. So the last, what we are doing, we are also focusing now on the other variety of seeds. So by 2020, now this we are also talking by 2020, we will try to maintain good genetic diversity of seeds and good cultivation of the plants and the domestic animals. This will help in the other production activities also. So we'll be focusing on the diversity of the seeds. Then we have goal 3. Here, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being of everyone. So we are promoting here the healthy lives and the well-being of everyone. So the target 1 says by 2030, we will reduce the global maternal mortality rate less than 70 per the lakh live births that we have. So we will be reducing the global maternal mortality ratio. You should remember this from there. And then by 2030, we'll end the preventable diseases of the newborn children under the age of 5 years. So all the children who are at the age, under the age of 5, we will be protecting them. We will also reduce the neonatal mortality to at least 12%. You should also remember this figure now. We will reduce the neonatal mortality rate, that would be now less than 12%. per the 1000 live births under the 5 mortality rate. That means all the students or the children who used to die below that, who were below the age of 5, would be protected, and at least the age of 25% again on the basis of the 1000 live births. Then we have by 2030, we will be ending all the epidemics and all the diseases like AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and other neglected the diseases that we had in the tropical sector. So we had other diseases like hepatitis or the other waterborne diseases or the other communicable diseases that were prevalent but were neglected from a longer period of time. We will be combating them as well. So by 2030, we will be focusing more, and this was also seen in our MDG. So we will be working on malaria, tuberculosis, AIDS, other neglected tropical diseases like the hepatitis, waterborne diseases, other communicable diseases, right? Then we have by 2030, we'll reduce 1/3 premature mortality for the non-communicable diseases. So whoever these children who are dying below the age of 5, we will try to reduce that mortality by 2030 by 1/3. Again, something that you have to learn. We will also be working and preventing and promoting the treatment of these children. Also, we'll be working on the mental health and the well-being. We'll strengthen the prevention and the treatment, and we will provide them with good drugs. So we'll provide them with good medicines and will prevent them from harmful drugs, right? Or harm affected by the alcohol. So we'll protect the people from harmful narcotic drugs and harmful effects of the alcohol also. So we will be spreading awareness related to all these things. Then by 2020, we will halve the number of global diseases and the injuries that are caused by the accidents. That means the road traffic accidents. So we'll also not only focus on the diseases that are prevalent like malaria or cholera or HIV AIDS, but we'll also focus on the other ignored tropical diseases. Then we'll also be focusing on the road accidents, and we'll halve all these accidents by 2020. By 2030, we'll ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive healthcare services. So we will be providing services and healthcare facilities to everyone. We won't be discriminating. There would be universal access to awareness and the awareness, and of course other medicines that are needed for the healthcare services. Then we'll achieve universal health coverage. We will try to protect the health of everyone. By 2030, sustainably we'll reduce the number of deaths and illness from the hazardous chemicals related or found in the air, water, soil pollution or other contamination. So we'll also be protecting that our air, our water or the soil is not affected. There can be other hazardous illness or deaths caused by these. So we will be also protecting the people from these kind of diseases. Then we have goal 4. We'll ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunity. So we will be protecting them and we will be providing them equitable quality education. Now this is what they are talking here. So they are not only focusing on primary education in goal 4. Goal 4 is very important and it is asked a lot of time in the exams. Here we are talking about we will ensure that there is inclusive, that means there is education for everyone. There is good quality, good equitable quality of education, good standards are maintained. This will promote a lifelong learning opportunity for everyone. So by 2030, we'll ensure that all girls and boys are given complete, free, equitable, quality primary and secondary education. This will lead them to live a better life. So we'll protect them by giving them good education. All the girls and the boys are included here. Then by 2030, we'll ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development. So here we are working on the early childhood development and care also. That is why we have the concept of Anganwadis. Remember this word. In your higher education, you must have read it. What is Anganwadis? This is also a PYQ asked in 2022. So we have the pre-primary education also here. We're also talking about the primary education. So pre-primary education ke andar we have the Anganwadis, and then we have the primary education. We are also talking about the secondary education here. And what will be the outcome? The outcome will be a better lifelong opportunity given to everyone. Then we have by 2030, we'll ensure that there is equal access to all the women and the men, affordable and quality education. Not only education, but technical education, vocationalization should be there. That means vocational education and the tertiary education also. So this would also be given. There would be all these different universities that will now be talking about the technical education, the vocationalization and the tertiary sector education would also be given. Like, so we have courses like tourism now, banking, tourism, all of these things would be promoted. Not only bookish knowledge is needed. All these things are talked in your NEP 2020. That is why goal 4 and NEP 2020, both of these two things are important. Then by 2030, we will substantially increase the number of youth and adults that have relevant skills, and also technical and vocational skills would be increased. Then decent jobs and different entrepreneurship skills will also be given to them. By 2030, we'll eliminate all kinds of gender disparity in education and we'll ensure equal access to education given to everyone. Then by 2030, we'll ensure that all the youths and the substantial portion of the adults, both men and women, are given literacy, and they can basically read. So basic reading and writing, that means the numeracy and the literacy should be there. So because of these things only, we have different initiatives that the government is starting. Under NEP 2020, we have all these policies. We have schemes like Diksha. We have so many different schemes for the teacher education, for the student education, for the primary education, so that we actually lead to a place. So we can say that we are ensuring that every youth has a substantial education. None of us is illiterate, right? So we would be including the technical, the vocational, and the other employment opportunities also. By 2030, we'll ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and the skills needed to promote sustainable development. Then the goal 5, it says that achieve gender equality and empower all women and the girls. Now this goal is talking about the gender empowerment. It says that the women and the men are equal. So end all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. Protect the girls and the women. Eliminate all forms of violence against the women and the girls at the public places or the private spheres. In fact, trafficking and other sexual exploitation that happens should also be curbed and eliminated. Eliminate all harmful practices such as the child labors or early forced marriages or women genital mutilation, right? All of these things should be eliminated. So they're also talking about the early child marriage or the early women marriage, that because they are forced to marry soon. So all of these things are all the harmful practices should also be curbed. Recognize and value the unpaid care of the domestic workers. So basically we always feel that the women being at home are never doing a lot of work. They are not substantially contributing to the GDP of our country, but that is completely wrong, because they are also working, and their work and their value should be recognized. So recognize and value all the unpaid care that they do in the domestic work, and all the infrastructural and the social protection activities should be given to them. Then ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunity in all the leadership activities also. Then give them equal access. Ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. So give them equal health benefits, equal rights, equal opportunities, and reproductive health care facilities. Then we have goal number 6, and this goal is to ensure availability of sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, right? So this goal will talk about the availability of water and the sustainable and of course the sanitation also. So sanitation is the thing that SDG is talking about and not MDG. So by 2030, achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water to everyone. By 2030, achieve access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene to everyone. And there should be no one who is doing open defecation. So you'll try to restore all of these sanitation problems that we had. By 2030, improve the water quality and reduce the pollution that we have. Eliminate all the dumping, minimize the release of hazardous chemicals, and then you have to of course eliminate, but of course you have to half here the untreated wastage of water and substantially increase the recycling of the water so that it can be reused. So from here comes the concept of black water or grey water, one thing that we have discussed in the class, also a PYQ. So this time they asked in 2022 only, they asked about the black water and what is grey water. So what is the grey water? Grey water is the water that is used in household that can be used again and again. So here also they are saying this only, that you have to first of all eliminate all the hazardous chemicals being thrown in the water, the dumping that is done in the water, all the hazardous chemicals should be reduced, water pollution should be reduced, but there should be more and more recycling and reuse of the water. Then by 2030, substantially increase water use efficiency across all sectors. By 2030, implement integrated water resource management at all levels. So have a good water resource management systems. And then by 2020, protect and restore water related ecosystem. So you have to protect all the water related ecosystems also. Then we have goal 7. Goal 7 will ensure affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. That means here we are talking about the energy resources. We are saying that we have resources and we should make it affordable, reliable and sustainable. And we're talking about the modern energy. So by 2030, ensure universal access to this affordable, reliable, modern energy services to everyone. By 2030, increase substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. So try to give them or provide the people with adequate amount of renewable energy, protect all the resources that we already have. Then by 2030, double. Another very important thing, and it is also a PYQ, double the global rate of improvement in the energy efficiency. You have to double whatever we are doing in the energy resources, you have to double it. So this is also our SDG. Then we have a goal 8, and the goal 8 says promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Full and productive employment and decent work should be given to everyone. So this goal is talking about the economic growth. This goal says that there should be promotion. So promote sustained. For that means you can do this job for a longer period of time. There is sustenance. It is inclusive. Everyone is given this right. Sustainable economic growth to everyone. Full and productive employment and decent work should be given. So this goal says that the sustain the per capita income and the economic growth so that the nation can give them at least opportunities and raise the domestic production by 7%. That means they are saying at least raise 7% gross domestic product. This will only be done when we have good amounts of job available. So here we are saying at least there should be 7% gross domestic product growth per annum in the least developed countries. Achieve higher levels of economic productivity and diversity and technological upgradation should be there. So work towards the innovation, technology, so that the GDP can be increased by 7%. Remember all these figures. Then promote development-oriented policies and policies that can support these activities. There can be good job creation, decent job creation, entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation will help a lot so that there can be improvement in your global resource efficiency. They're also saying that globally you should work in this level that the resource efficiency is increased so that there can be job creation and this will increase the GDP by 7%. So by 2030, achieve full and productive employment. Decent work should be given to women and men, including the young people also. Persons with disability should also be equally paid. So there should be no discrimination between the wages given to a woman or to a man or to a person with disability. There should be equal value of everyone. By 2020, substantially reduce the proportion of youth who is not working, who is not employed, who is not educated and who is not given any kind of training. So we are saying here that by 2020, not 2030, by 2020, you have to ensure that the amount of people who are not the youth, who is not doing anything, is now being working or is at least being educated. Then take immediate and effective measures to eradicate forced labor. Then modern slavery should be ended and human trafficking should be banned. Protect the labor rights and promote safe and secure environment for the workers. Also protect the women. Then by 2030, there should be diverse implemented policies to promote the tourism sector also. So work on the tourism sector. This is also they are talking. Then they are saying that strengthen the capacity of the domestic financing institutions and expand, encourage the accessibility of banking. So they are talking about banking sector. They are talking about the insurance sector also and other financial services. This will make us holistically come forward. Then we have a goal 9. So rather than discussing goal 9, I will leave it here. We'll discuss goal 9 in the next class. So 9 to 17 we'll be discussing in the next class. But before that, let us see one question that is very easy also. So identify the sustainable development goals in the list given below. We have first zero hunger, quality education, universal primary education, then clean water and sanitation, green agriculture, and climate action. So what should be the right answer? The right answer is D. That is 1, 2, 4 and 6. Now let us see 1, 2, 4 and 6. Now why do you think that this is the right answer? So first of all, we have already discussed the two goals, and in fact we have discussed all of them. But zero hunger, there should be zero hunger, no one who is sleeping without food is what we were talking in the goal zero hunger. So this is the zero hunger should be there. This is the SDG. Then we are discussing about quality education. We discussed about the tertiary sector, innovation, and also technical education, vocationalization. So that is very much an SDG. Then we also discussed about sanitation and clean water. That is also an SDG. And climate action is another SDG. Right? We haven't discussed this till now. This will come in the later part. But that is an SDG. We never discussed about green agriculture. We just said that we will increase the variety of seeds, but we are not discussing about green agriculture here. And universal primary education is your MDG, but not your SDG. So wherever you have 3, you can strike it out and then also you can get your answer. So this is how you can solve the questions. So this is an explanation given which says that the United Nations General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. So the GA adopted the framework that is transforming our world. By 2030 Agenda, we have about 17 goals, 169 targets that will focus and aim to swipe out the poverty, fight against the inequalities, tackle climate change problems for the next 15 years. The agenda is to take, and there's an action plan for the people, for the planet, and for the prosperity of everyone. They will seek to realize the human rights and achieve the human equality given to everyone and empower the women as well. So the division of the Sustainable Development Goals in the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs act as a secretariat for the SDG goals. Now you should write down this line because this was important. Who acts as a secretariat? You should know. Now this is the last question that we'll be discussing today. And we'll be again in the next video discuss the remaining SDG goals, and we'll have few questions also. So the number of sustainable development goals is what? There are how many sustainable development goals? There are 13, 15, 17 or 19 sustainable goals. So we already know the answer. There are 17 sustainable goals. This is the right answer. And we all know this. So what is basically these global goals? They are 17 interlinked global goals designed as a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future given to everyone. This was developed post 2015, and this succeeded the Millennium Development Goals. So these are all the 17 goals that we have. Again, I would repeat these goals, and from this I will sum up the class. In the next video, we'll be having the other comprehensive questions that are asked right now related to the targets. Right, so they can ask easy questions as well as difficult. So we should discuss all of them. We discussed 6 outcomes only this time. So 6 goals or 7, whatever we discussed. We'll be again discussing the remaining few. But for now, let us see the goals that we have. So I would repeat again, there is goal 1, that is no poverty. Then we have zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Then we have reducing all the inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production. Then we have the climate action, Then we have the life below the water, then we have life on land, then peace, justice and strong institutions, and at the end we have partnership related to the goals that we have and with the other countries. So these are the 17 goals, 169 targets. So today we could not finish all of the discussing all these targets, but in the next video we'll surely discuss all these targets, and also remember this current affair that I had for you, right? And read more about it. So this being your homework, after this I would just wind up the class. In the next video we'll discuss the remaining few. So keep smiling, keep studying. I will meet you with the next video, in the next video with the remaining goals. So thank you so much. Keep on studying.